Okay, I'm actually really excited about this. I had to take a couple days to really think about what to do next, and I'm gonna do this. I'm say goodbye to this very nice, beautiful scene. I'm sorry, I gotta kill you, but you are gonna become this very interesting, slightly abstracted landscape that makes me think of the group of seven, that makes me think of a little bit of Monet, Odilon Rodin, someone's got to tell me how to say his name properly, Klimt, Gustav Klimt, who I really love, and me. That's it. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's we'll get this purple that I was working on before. Oh, this feels so good. This feels so good. I was so stressed about this. I wasn't stressed, I was just like doubtful and unsure what to do. And that doesn't happen to me too often. You know what it was? I was trying to think, because holy shit, I'm like smiling right now because it feels so right. You know what it was? This was this nice area, and I know without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, I would have made this landscape that would have been very appealing to people, to many people. It would have been very pretty and attractive, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it would have been just like millions of other landscapes. It wouldn't have that voice that I'm trying to find. And this is going to. And my dad points it out, which was actually kind of intentional. And I really like too, is that it kind of feels like this was like fire. He was unsure if that was like a forest fire. And yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of like that. If you ever see my other stuff that I did recently, the Glow Beyond series, where there's like some sort of strange glow beyond the horizon. And yeah, I like a little bit of mystery. I like a little bit of uncertainty. So I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to see what happens when I do this. I think I'm going to slap some of this orange, because I've called this Birch Tree with Orange, so here's the orange. And yeah, loving it. That's the right thing to do. I can't believe I'm this happy. It's so weird. I'm not sure if I want this to be so high. Maybe I'll bring this, yeah, maybe I'll make it end like over here. I just want to check if it's filming. I don't even know if it's filming. Yep. Alright. Okay. I'm like, as soon as I do this, I can hardly wait to start another one. And the other thing that I like to do, that I probably will do at some point, is incorporate figures and people into it. This one is going to be just more, you know, like just landscape from my imagination. You know, I did look at some birch trees, some photographs, to get a sense of what they're really like. Like, for example, I didn't realize that they had like the sort of like bulbous, and then they spike out so far. So that was kind of good to get references from some pictures. But the overall composition want to be my own. Considering stealing a little bit of Tim Packer's sun over here. I don't know if I want to, because it's so distinctive for his. I don't want it. That would be almost like cheating. So I'm not sure. But I really do like it. It has this really nice halo effect that he does. And Tim, okay, so I've been doing this and experimenting my whole life, and he's doing a technique which I've actually never tried intentionally. I have done it when I think about it, but it wasn't so intentional. What he does is interesting. He paints the whole canvas red. Not super dark, but just enough red, because what he's discovered is that when he does landscapes. So let's just say what's cool about what he does is he'll then go and paint let's say branches and leaves, and around the edges you'll see a little bit of red, and it kind of has this impact, and that's something that he's kind of discovered, which is pretty cool. You know, I thought I knew it all. I'll be honest, if you get to know me, I'm pretty cocky when it comes to art. That's why, another reason why I don't talk too much is that I've always been very, very confident when it comes to painting and fine art, and I don't want to be an asshole. So that's why I try not to speak too much, because I feel like so self-assured that it comes across arrogant, and I've always regretted that part about me, doing that part about me, because I really respect people who are humble and only say a few things that are meaningful. So, you know, I do have that part of me that I always have to work on. But it's also, you know, the part of me that gives me this freedom. I've never been afraid for a second when it comes to this. Someone asked me about making mistakes painting, and I'm like, man, I have never ever felt worried at all. And so somehow I was so lucky to have this thing, which is like zero worry or fear about making a mistake. Yeah. Okay. How about shut up and paint? That's a good idea. I don't talk unless I have a camera rolling like I do now. I find myself like I feel like sometimes maybe I should say something relevant. Okay. Let's step back, take a look. Yeah. Okay. What isn't right is I don't like this shape here. It worked before. It doesn't work now. So by splashing this yellow down in these stripes here, helps me bring down that dark forest, but also it looks like it's going to create that forest fire effect. Now, my intention is not to make a forest fire, but sometimes in Ontario, man, we have some beautiful, I love Ontario, like it sounds so goofy, but I love being up north in cottage country in the fall. That's just like, that's magic. I've seen some beautiful places in the world, but Ontario, man, we have some beautiful scenery. And it's my home, right? This is like a huge part of me is northern Ontario, near Huntsville. When I grew up, we had a cottage on Lake of Bays, and unfortunately we had to sell it years ago. But it was just the most gorgeous, peaceful, beautiful place I can imagine. There's even a certain spot that when I die, you know, maybe that's where they'll scatter my ashes. It's right on the edge of a sandbar, right by my parents' or family's old cottage, by Mercury Island. There's a sandbar, and there's a tip of land. I can't believe I'm saying this. There's a tip of land on the north side by where the cottage used to be, where the sandbar begins, and you could look across Lake of Bays this way, see the sandbar here, and then look to the west, and it had this massive expansion. And the sandbar is about 2 or 3 feet deep, and it goes right across to McMurtry Island. And I had so many amazing memories growing up there, and I was lucky because I got to take my son there at least one time. And one day I'm going to do a painting of my memories of that cottage, of the lake, because I have a very vivid memory of the layout of the stones, steps that go down to the dock. One day, if I ever make enough money, I'd love to have a cottage. I'd love to be able to paint up there. It's one of my dreams. So if you know any rich people that can buy some artwork, let me know. Okay. I like what was happening here. You probably can't see because the camera's too far away, but there's like purples and greens and blues kind of blending together. It has a really nice effect. Oops, it's too dark. So we'll take some of those cool, interesting colors, and that'll be part of this mysterious forest of who knows what's back here. There is an artist that I didn't realize existed. I mean, I hadn't heard of. Really interesting stuff. His name is Peter Doig. Again, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I think he's from Scotland. He lived in Canada for a while. Now he's like in like Bahamas or Bermuda or Trinidad or some one of those islands or countries. And he did a painting of a canoe and a lake. It was really, really interesting. So I might take some Peter Doig and throw it in here. And one of the other ones he did that I liked, he did this painting of a house in Rosedale and Forest Hill. And that was kind of surprising to me. Oh, and he did this painting of the Rainbow Tunnel in Toronto by the DVP, which is very close to where I live. And that inspired me to do my own version of it. So, and someone bought, I don't know who bought that. My Rainbow Tunnel painting, whoever owns it, they bought it at that charity art show I had with the Ronald McDonald House. Just want to let you know, it was inspired by Peter Doig's Rainbow Tunnel. So you might want to go and check out his version if you're interested. No, I need purple, not blue. Okay, it's time to get some more colors. Oh, should I do this one? Nope. I need a certain color. There's a brown. Here you are. Oh man, this is good. I think I need to go. I like these branches. I'm going to go and work on those later. Okay, so the branches, I am specifically thinking about Peter Doig's painting of a Riverdale house, and it's all these branches. And I think what he did is he painted in negative space, which I'm not doing. But so what that means is instead of drawing a line, you paint color around it so it creates a line. And it's his is more very intricate. Reminded me of some of Gustav Klimt's paintings. You know why I feel good right now is because I'm not trying to change the world here. I know that one reason why I didn't go to be a full-time artist when I was younger is because I was very I won't say turned off, but I felt like I was born in the wrong era to be a painter. When I was, I did take some time. Like I did go to art school for a year, which by the way I thought was a total joke, and I left and I went to the degree in psychology at McGill. But I didn't. The only thing I learned at art school was I learned some technical stuff. Like I learned about printmaking, and that was really fun. And I learned about some sculpture. Like I learned how to do some bronze work, and that was worthwhile for me. But all the other exercises I taught myself, and I'm not being arrogant here, I taught myself when I was under the age of 13. Everything that they tried to teach me at art school, I taught myself when I was 11, 12, 13, 14, and it was just kind of a joke. I was told, which was neat, and I knew this, and it's one of those arrogant kind of things coming out, damn it, which is, I was told by a few professors I should have been in the master's program instead of being the first year. And I agreed. And that's kind of why I left art school, because it was just a waste of my time. I have no regrets about switching to McGill, because I've got a couple of passions that I'm really interested in. I've always been interested in psychology. That has to do with the fact my family is very psychology oriented. My dad's a psychiatrist. and health related. Like my mom was a nurse, my dad's a psychiatrist. My brother, my sisters, and I all did psychology at McGill. My brother's a doctor. My sisters went and got their masters in education. And I honestly resisted doing that, but at the end of the day, I wanted to learn how the brain worked. So my area of focus was neurophysiology, so just the physiology of the brain, and work with kids, because I had one of my thoughts was to be a pediatric neurosurgeon, and I love the idea where you can have a specialty and really make a huge difference. And I really like sort of like helping kids, and I loved how the brain worked, so I have no regrets because I learned so many interesting things about the human brain and psychology and behavior. But I ended up not going that path. I ended up choosing a path after I spent a year painting, actually a few years painting, and had my solo show. When I started trying to doing exhibits in Toronto when I was about 25, I knew that it was just not the right time for me. Now is the right time for me. When I'm close to 50, this is the right time for me. So what I did was, another one of my passions was video games. I used to program video games with my Commodore 64 when I was about 15 in 1985, and I wrote all kinds of really. I wrote one game, which I wish I still had it, and I might actually, I don't know. But it was a Zork-like text-based game with ASCII graphics. And it was an adventure game, so you type it would recognize the verb, the pronoun, the noun, and so you'd say, walk north to park, and it would query the database, and then it would print the ASCII graphics, which I also created. And what happened with that particular game was I ran out of memory in BASIC. And I remember going, oh no, what do I do now? It's like hundreds or thousands of lines of code. And I didn't even have a compiler back then, which is amazing. But I started dabbling with machine language, and I said, no thanks. And I took programming up to university, and I actually stopped programming at McGill because they were teaching us Fortran and Turbo Pascal, and it just wasn't fun to do. So anyhow, I've always been into video games, and my strength is obviously art. And I did a lot of traditional animation, stop motion animation when I was a teenager. I'd go to this after school program and do it, and that was awesome. And I eventually started making video games. And my goal was to run a video game studio. So I did it. And here today, 25 years later, I've made a whole bunch of video games, both from the creative side, but also from running the studios. And I love the video game industry. And I think I'm always going to be in it. In fact, is this thing rolling? Yeah. One of the things, series of paintings I've been thinking about doing is famous, not famous, but sort of momentous moments in video games and painting them. But still making an attractive, beautiful painting. One example, which is more like a funny example, and I've tried to think of a composition, I just haven't come up with it yet, but the Leroy Jenkins, which is this hilarious moment when someone was playing World of Warcraft, and it's a video capture where you can hear the group chat, and they're all about to rush in, so not to rush in, there's a group of players that are all discussing how they're going to go fight this one, essentially let's just call it a boss character. And they're all talking about planning, who's going to do what, you're going to work on defense magic with this spell. And this one guy, the character goes, Leroy Jenkins! And he just rushes into the room, and for those who don't know, it triggers the AI to start the battle, and of course, without the planning, you get decimated. So it was just kind of a funny thing. So I thought, it would be kind of fun to do a painting of Leroy Jenkins scenario. And maybe I'll do it one day. I just haven't figured out how to make it beautiful.